Hi everyone, I'm Dineth Hettiarachchi, the debate coach of Wesley College and Sri Lanka Law College. This part of the Debaters Council motion debrief where we explain to you motions that were held at tournaments. The motion for today is this house should prioritize providing students in rural areas with digital access to good schools over developing schools in rural areas. Some examples of providing them with digital access would look like setting up hybrid classrooms in good schools where you take as maybe a Zoom meeting, a laptop, and you put it a live Zoom meeting in a good school, and then you let students from rural areas join that Zoom meeting and observe what's going on within the lesson. Another thing you can do is like also providing like free laptops to students. This would mean a lot of these individuals would have access to digitally join these kind of classrooms. The other thing is, another example would be improving internet access in rural areas, which would allow again more connectivity, more opportunities for them to join these online classes. You're going to be making a trade-off in this debate. With the trade-off on proposition, what you have to say is that you want to get higher quality education, but you're giving up this aspect of physical education where you can go to school in a normal way and everything is now moved online. On opposition, you need to prove why this trade-off is bad, why everything going everything going digital is a bad idea, and even if it is at the cost of maybe like having slightly higher quality of education. So okay, on proposition, what do you want to do? You need to prove why having a higher quality of education is important, more so than having this normal quality of education that you might get with developing these schools in a more sustainable manner. And two, I think you need to prove that given that you only have this finite amount of resources, why using them in this way is more efficient rather than you trying to like develop these schools maybe in a general way. So first, regarding why you need to improve this quality of education, you can generally talk about how right now society is competitive. This means that students have to be competitive in exams and jobs. So when you go to exams, the quality of education you get matters to a significant degree. This means, I think like even Sri Lanka, an example would be like A levels. When you go for A levels, there's huge amounts of competition. If you don't do even if you do good, sometimes you're not able to get into like good universities. I think like when you look at in terms of jobs, the school that you goes to also like adds to your credentials as well. And apart from that, like anyway, the experience that school gives you from that higher quality of education makes you like a uniquely better suited candidate for this kind of jobs. So that means, let us say, if you don't get a higher quality of education, you're going to find it difficult to find like good jobs or even pass like exams well enough. I think a couple of examples of what good quality education would look like. That is, say, maybe more strategy if you want to like answer questions for an exam, how exactly you target these things specifically in terms of like having maybe like labs where you can do experiments by yourself and you like understand them because now you have like practical hands-on experience, or even being taught by like better teachers, more experienced individuals who are able to teach them in like more memorable ways and make you understand them properly, more so than might be expected in normal school. You can, I think, just say how in these situations, if you want to just unplug, if the alternative is to send teachers to the students and try to develop it, this is going to be difficult. That's, I think, the second question on efficiency. So a couple of things you can talk about, how maybe it's difficult in terms of finding like land. If you want to build a new school, you have to like buy land. That's also like a huge cost, and it's not only going to be expensive, but it's also not going to be something that's going to give you yield in the short term. These are things that takes you like long amount of time to set up. But two, I think like even in terms of things like sending teachers, all of them, the teachers who even like end up going to these kind of schools are not going to be like the best teachers, because you simply can't afford to like have really good teachers in like all of these schools across. So in terms of efficiency, it is more efficient for like give these individuals like laptops or access where they can like easily join another classroom with couple of high quality teachers. So even if like there's small amount of resources, so like even if small amount of high quality teachers exist within like these good classes, you can easily like let large amount of people connect to them in terms of by using Zoom or some other technology, as opposed to like spreading good quality teachers across like an entire school within all these rural areas. It is simply not feasible. I think also you can say how this is going to be Sorry. So how I think another question is on how this makes things easier for people on like the digital access. A couple of things you can talk about here is you can say that especially within rural areas, the digital access to education makes it far more flexible option for these individuals. So let's say if it's maybe you have to like do chores and you have to like help out your parents, all of that. So even if it's something like where you have to like farming season or whatever, and you have to like go help out your parents, all of with work, in those situations you can simply like rewind lectures and like attend them even if you miss them because of like recorded. And the digital flexibility that you gain because of that makes it more likely you're able to go to able to attend your education. And I think more this is more of like another thing is like impact on how right now if we're on the comparative, if students don't like maybe get education from like teachers who are not that great, and they even though they gain some sort of basic education, you're not able to uh, gain a high quality of education in order to surpass pass exams and all of that properly, which means sometimes like even parents would think, okay, look, what is the point where these people don't get like a good enough quality of education to achieve anything, where you don't see tangible results. So that means like people might be even de-incentivized from sending their kids to school if the like the education there they have, they feel like it's not sufficient enough to get a good enough job. I think like in the long term you can also talk about how this means if these students like they graduate in terms of become alumni, they are more likely to come and like help out these kind of areas again by using their funding because they have managed to like secure good jobs because they have like a connection with this area or something like that. Another idea that you can talk about is regarding how even people who are not like specifically skilled in like certain areas, they are able to find subjects that work for them. Normally in these kind of schools, the issue is the curriculum. You aren't able to like have a vast amount of curriculum in terms of like teaching lots of different subjects, because if you have a small amount of resources, what you want to do is like give everybody a basic knowledge. But now if you have like good access schools, now you're able to teach things like aesthetics, arts, maybe like art subjects, and other also like specializations that people might be able to find out things that they're interested in and like pursue them to a degree where they're more successful in them, as opposed to them on everybody getting like a basic math and like literacy knowledge. This is something that's going to obviously happen because you don't have enough resources. Okay, moving on to what would opt necessarily talk about? I think like what you probably want to do is you want to prove a lot of these like give multiple reasons why physical education is important. One thing you can talk about is accountability, because right now if you go to like physical school, there are going to be teachers who are accountable, who are responsible for these kids. But if you have put them in like in a virtual classroom, it's going to be a bit more difficult. One, you can say these teachers are probably going to be focusing more on the students within their own classrooms. Maybe there might be some sort of disconnect because these are like people who are simply joining online. And even in terms of like engagement, people within this like physically are present are able to like ask more questions. People who are online might be deterred as well. Even in terms of like knowledge, if these people feel like they're not up to their peers who might be physically present in these classrooms, it might like make them demotivated, all of that. Also, I think like in terms of children, how it's easier to like monitor engagement, because it's like in a virtual classroom it's like quite there's distractions in this kind of environment. It's difficult to monitor students, where you can easily come up with excuses like, oh okay, look, my connection is laggy, couldn't turn on my video. These are like very common issues that turn up. So because of that, it makes it the process of like monitoring kids, making sure they do the thing, do their like work properly is difficult. So accountability again is a bit less. Teachers are less likely to be accountable for those kind of students, and the quality of education they get, even though you give them good resources, might not necessarily mean that these benefits would manifest. Another thing I think you can talk about is similar to like this is about like children in general are not always like the most responsible, how they might easily get easily distracted. But also this means that now parents themselves are forced to monitor these kids when they join these classrooms. This is not something that's simply practical for students in rural areas, where like both parents might end up going to a job to like head the family. They might be out of the house. In those kind of situations, it's not possible for them to like monitor the child whether they're doing their work, as opposed to just sending them to school and like making sure the teacher at like their rural school, at their school is going to be taking care of them. So I think another idea is about socialization. You can talk about how children not only go to school to get like theoretical knowledge, but rather they develop soft skills that are important. This means like you socialize, you make friends, you learn how to like resolve conflicts, you learn how to communicate. None of those things are going to happen in a virtual environment. Probably more analysis on how you can say why there's less of incentive to like communicate in virtual environments, maybe as opposed to like physical, the close proximity which leads to like conversation starters, all of those things don't exist in virtual classrooms. And I think like general why networks are also important for individuals, how these people like get support structures, even in the future to people, for individuals to like help them out. None of those things are going to exist if you only or rather they are, even if you can say they exist to some degree, that's going to be far less than when you are in a physical classroom, when it's like completely online. We have probably seen like during COVID how difficult it was for like a lot of individuals to form those kind of relationships, which end up like sometimes the people even had like stunted emotional development in certain situations. I think another, so these are just different, I think, problems that opposition can portray on terms of saying why exactly online education is problematic. The comparative then is you try to like mitigate and say that look, the education in these schools are not going to be like that as bad as you think it is. You can say that look, even if you can't like maybe develop like build buildings like soon enough, you can easily do things like maybe having more transportation to these kind of schools, like building maybe some putting like area like they have in Sri Lanka. So accessibility again still increases to an extent. Like you give like better incentives to teachers within these kind of schools to like teach more, give scholarships to these individuals, and overall try to, and whatever like fun maybe sessions that you can do to teachers to like improve their ability to teach. Those are kind of things that you can do to like mitigate and say that look, now we are going to be able to a large extent improve the quality of education within this. Sure, you might not be able to improve them to like a very huge extent, but even so, you give the students something to like work with, and then afterwards they can like simply build on that. If you want to like study something niche, even you can like do well enough at school, and then you get base knowledge, then you get like maybe a scholarship or something, and then you like go and do better in those like specific area. So sure, there might be like some trade-offs where you make not everybody gets to do what they want to like large degree, but overall the quality of life of like everybody is going to be better. I think you can also talk about like the vulnerable stakeholders, which means students who are less likely to grasp things easily. Those are students who are going to lack attention in props world, where there's less communication, less engagement. Those are, I think, like also average student might also face more difficulties. The only people this might specifically benefit are maybe like very skilled students, and those are like a minority. So overall, for the majority of the students' sakes, it's probably better for you to have physical education within these kind of schools. So I think like those are specific like independent benefits that you can prove, and if you can do some mitigating, I think it will be easier for opposition to win this debate. Thank you.